Basically, at any point, if you want to talk about something additional, don't hesitate. If you want to go off on a tangent, don't hesitate.
Just assume that this whole thing will be a tangent.
Sounds good. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today, we've got a very special guest, a true legend in the world of occultism, ceremonial magic, and all things esoteric, the one and only Lon Milo Duquette. Thank you so much for joining us, Lon. It's not only a brilliant author and a lecturer, and he's also well known for his engaging and accessible approach to complex esoteric subjects, which, as you know, I consider to be a strong marker of being a teacher that you can actually listen to. And in the words of Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And boy, does Lon understand his topic well enough, to the great advantage of all of us, his readers. We're going to be talking today about his upcoming Enochian Vision Magick course via magicalretreats.com. Vision in the Desert is the name of the course, and it's taking place in just a couple of weeks' time in the inspiring landscape of Joshua Tree National Park in California. His brand new book is also due out in early May of this year, 2025, called The Tarot Architect, getting some invaluable insights into the worlds of magic and mysticism, and hopefully gleaning a book recommendation or two along the way. So buckle up, grab your favorite beverage, and get ready for a mind-expanding conversation. Lon, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you getting on?
Thank you. It's wow, I don't know if I can live up to that introduction. You forgot to mention I'm one hell of a little dancer, too.
Is that right?
No, it's not. No, not at all. I became a musician to keep from dancing. Okay. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your music too, Lon. Very nice.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you, because I follow your broadcasts and your recommendations, and I'm a big fan of Foolish Fish too.
That's really nice to hear. I promised not to do any more interviews because I'm not good at doing interviews. But when I found out that you may be up for getting an interview with me, obviously the answer is yes. So let's get cracking.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's start talking maybe about this course that you've got coming up. Let's see. I've got a couple of questions written up, so I'll just read them straight off the page. Enochian Magick is renowned for being pretty involved. I'm sure that many of your viewers will be aware of your incredibly level-headed introduction, more than introduction, pragmatic and accessible approach to the magic of John Dee that you share in this book over here, Enochian Vision Magick. But for the one or two stragglers out there who don't know about all of this, can you give us some insight into your particular approach to Enochian magic, what you consider it to be useful for, and just generally the way you like to think about it?
Well, it's you can initially think about Enochian magic as a specific system, a magical technology that can be applied as an art. Okay. So technology that can be applied as an art, okay? And I view magic as an art form and magicians as artists. And the technical part is just that, just like a painter, has to master certain technical skills, but that doesn't make him an artist. Okay, that makes him a technician, which is just fine. Well, Enochian magic, in a sense, the technology of it is awesome. Okay, it's just awesome and very very interesting, and you can lose yourself in the technology, and forget that you're going to do something with this. So it's a technology that enables you to access very specific levels of your own consciousness. that you haven't had an inroad to triggering before. We've got all of this. We've got limitless consciousness potential in us. Okay, that's the whole thing where the old Kabbalah says we're made in the image of God. Well, that means we're one of those fractal reflections of the infinite, and we're only tapping into just like the grossest, lowest levels. But it's a technology to trigger little inroads to those higher and higher levels of consciousness, and lower and lower and lower levels of consciousness, like in the elemental world, And that's why there's two main branches of practical Enochian magic, elemental, and then etheric, or heavens. And if our listeners are at all familiar with the general theory of Qabalistic magic, we have that tree of life image with 10 bubbles that are connected by 22 paths. And we could look at that as levels of consciousness that as we climb up there, it's like we're expanding our consciousness. And number 10 is our head, and number 1 is Godhead. Okay. And Enochian magic, at least the ethereal aspect of it, instead of looking at it as 10 levels, it looks at it as 30 levels. Okay. But it's almost overwhelmingly complex to look at it at first and say, "Oh, I want to get, I want to get into that." When I first started getting interested in it, I was doing a Monday night magic class. This is back in the 70s, so mid 70s. I was doing a Monday night magic class just because I thought I was obliged to do that because I was a OTO lodge master. So I was struggling to stay 1 week ahead of the class. Okay. And after a couple of weeks, we got tired old pentagram rituals and hexagram rituals and the classic things that everybody's obliged or thinks they're obliged to learn first. And so I was going through a copy of Gems from the Equinox because I didn't have a full set of Equinox, And I saw this Enochian material, Liber Chanok and Vision in the Voice and things like that. And I said, "Oh, we could probably do 2 or 3 weeks on this."
2 or 3 weeks, eh?
And so I was doing my best to stay 1 week ahead of the class until we had finally built I had a version of the Earth tablet ready to. We sort of understood, how it was constructed, and we got a little bit into the history because the history of it is truly the most awesome story of real magic in the world.
Yes. Okay.
It's awesome. And the characters involved are world-class characters. I mean, John Dee was like the Stephen Hawking of the day and the Einstein of his day, and all of a sudden he just wanted to spy for Elizabeth, by remote viewing, and then he stumbled into this angelic system. But anyway, the after about 6 weeks, I guess, of the class learning together, we said, well, let's jump in the driver's seat and and crank this baby up, And the first time we did a call, just sort of as an experiment, we had a talented clairvoyant guy to volunteer. And everything else this guy volunteered for in the class, because we did a class on Goetia and we did a class on other forms of divination. And he would always say in his almost Shakespearean gravitas voice, I get nothing. I get nothing. This is BS, you know. But he was the only volunteer to do So we put him in the driver's seat anyway, because he's the only one that said, I'll give it a try. And we did the call, we did everything. We did more than we needed to do, okay? But we did the call, and that's kind of the important thing, is because that sort of raises the vibration of the environment that you're in, and we all sort of float around in that specific kind of jello of consciousness for a short time and view what's going on in our minds. And he got immediately, instead of saying, I get nothing, he says, oh my, I see a landscape. And he started to describe in detail this otherworldly landscape. And we said, do you see anything else? And he said, no. So we tried the call again and called a specific character. It was Ladrim, a planetary senior off of the Earth tablet. Mm-hmm. So we called it, and all of a sudden, it's like everyone in the room was seeing what he was seeing. It's very strange. You know, he's describing it. We're not imagining it. He's describing it, and all of us in our own mind's eye are seeing it.
Right.
And, you know, a character pops up. I described the whole thing, but we've got this angel in our living room, and we don't know what to really, thank you for showing up. We're really impressed here, you know, and it's like he's waiting. Well, what do you want to know? What do you want to, you know? Not only that, but the seer, our seer, while we're muddling around trying to see what we're going to do with this guy, because we were prepared for everything except success. Okay, and all of a sudden, our seer says, oh, I feel sort of like I could, Nanta holo hailo, and he started to, okay, and then he stopped and said his usual line, "This is BS," you know, and then he breaks back into it some more, you know, and everyone in the room, our hair was sort of standing on end. Yeah. This is really, is he going to foam at the mouth or something? And, but anyway, we're sort of all in shock, and I figured it would be best for us to thank this guy and send him along his way and hope he comes back when we do it again. And then let's talk about this. And we had a tape recorder going. So somebody suggested, let's see what he said. And that week, one of the class members brought the Donald Laycock's Enochian dictionary. It's a beautiful first edition hardcover. It had only been out for a minute. And so we replayed the tape over and over again and phonetically took what was coming out of his mouth. And it translated, okay. Took us about 90 minutes, but we got Spirit of Earth, Nanta, that was the first word. Okay, that was easy. But it's the Spirit of Earth, first worshiper welcome visit.
Amazing. Oh
and a couple other lines. There was just a little tad that we seemed too garbled. But it finally said, stretch forth your hands and conquer earth. It was the earth tablet. And then finally it said, find peace at the end, as if it was, hey, this is okay. You know, you guys stumbled into my universe, you know. going to be okay, And from then on, we did class 2 nights a week for the next 3 years.
I bet you did.
And it was just Enochian, okay? And the more our scryer got acquainted with the language, because other calls have different language, the more he got acquainted with it, the less his ability to fall into spontaneous speaking took over, because it had to be triggered from one other part of his brain. But we systematically went through all of the elemental tablets. And when we moved to the Tablet of Union, it even turned the juice up a little higher on what we could potentially expect. And it seems so complex, and it absolutely is, but it's so easy to do.
Right.
Okay. And what we're going to do in the desert, and incidentally, Joshua Tree is one of the most magical places on earth. Okay.
Right.
You can actually jump into the Milky Way in Joshua Tree. What we're going to do over a 3-day period, and I've got it set that hopefully we don't burn out, is just not to discuss the technology, but to immediately apply the art. So literally within the first 20 minutes, half hour, we're doing Enochian magic.
Oh, amazing.
And,
I suppose that makes sense. Sorry for interrupting for a second. I suppose people can do their own research at home. The whole point is to actually do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's nice. It's really nice.
And to get a feel for it, first to demonstrate that you live through it.
Yes. Come out the other side.
Then secondly, it'll give us like a baseline. What was going on in your mind? What'd you do here? And later on, we'll do the exact same thing after we've been tuned up a little bit more. Okay.
Nice.
And if nothing else, the technical training will be the training to shift your consciousness from what's going on to identify yourself with the observer of what's going on in your mind. So it'd be like we could daydream all day long, which is a form of scrying.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. But the difference is you're consciously becoming the observer of what's going on, and in the shifting of your consciousness. In a sense, a magician is only like everybody else, except the magician embraces his or her identity as the observer of existence. And the instead of the victim.
Right. Yes. It's a harsh word, but yes, it makes sense.
So I'm the worst PowerPoint technician in the world. Okay. I use that animation device tool. It's comically bad. Okay. But after we get some hands-on thing, after we're comfortable with what's going on, then I've got a little history lection, what's going on, and why this all appears, the material appears so complex at first, and why Dee and Kelly did like 90% of their actions just to prepare themselves for like the last 90 days. That last 90 days gave us the technology of Enochian magic that we practice today. And Dee and Kelly, once they got the technology, it took almost 3 years, and they were burned out. They hated each other, but
Right.
it's like they got the technology to design and build a Ferrari, and they got the Ferrari, and they they split up before they got into the car.
Yeah, be bothered to drive it. You're right.
It took about 300 years before there were others, contemporaries, that recognized the greatness of the technology. Dr. Rudd, Elias Ashmole, they preserved what they could, and they got material from like John Dee's housekeeper.
That's right. That.
She was baking pies with Enochian tablets and stuff like that. It took the brilliant adepts of the Golden Dawn to actually say, "Oh, wow, this is great stuff," and they started to apply that aspect of the D material that fit into their already compact, neat and clean Qabalistic worldview, I guess. Okay. And Enochian magic, as far as I'm concerned, fits 100% into that mold. But it's not obvious at first that it does, because it's not like there's the Enochian world of consciousness and magic and the Qabalistic world. No, we've only got one freaking world to work with, okay? It's just the Enochian way of looking at it and the Qabalistic way of looking at it. And so if you try to put them together too much, it's like making a marble rye bread. Marble, it's all in there, but it's it'd be hard to extract one to describe the other. And so it appears very very complex. But there was a reason why Dee and Kelly had to take most of their time before they were able to get that last 90 days of good stuff. And that is because they needed to tune themselves up. They themselves were not prepared. Dee would ask a question like, hey, will my friend Prince Lasky in Poland ever become king? Right. And the angels would say in so many words, they say, oh, we can tell you that. No problem. It'll only take a minute. Yeah, okay, and a minute in angel time is like 500 years, And so, but first, you have to understand how angels view reality and what we think of when we think of Prince Lasky, or when we think of king, or when we think of Poland, or what we think of that ball of dirt that you're on, or what we think of your solar system, and what we think of what space-time, and okay. He has to penetrate that marble rye bread, you got to kind of think like us. So we're going to show you how the universe works so we can answer your question in a simple, straightforward way, the way we angels talk. And so they make Dee and Kelly, in a sense, ride along on the story of existence. Okay, and I like to look at it as from the Big Bang to right now. Now, if Dee would have been a dancer or a musician, they would have communicated this stuff in music and movement and things like that. And Dee would, oh, I get it. Oh, it's so beautiful. But D was the smartest freaking guy on the planet. And he was a cryptographer.
Yes.
The universe, truth was something, was a code that he could crack, okay? And so they had to give it to him in codes that he could crack and understand.
Get excited about and engage in, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You know, so they started with alphanumeric squares. Now, D was already trying to crack the code of existence, even before all of this, because that's just what kept him up at night, you know. And he had this thing called the Book of Soiga, and it was one of the questions he first asked the angels, is my Book of Soiga of any value? And they said, oh, sure, we gave it to Adam, you know, yeah. But it dealt with alphanumeric squares. Now, an alphanumeric square is not only a number, okay, but it has other attributes and correspondences that go with it, like number and a letter, okay, and the letter and the number co-define each other, okay. Then add a third thing to it, like a planetary sphere or a color or something else, and all of a sudden you multiply the complexity of the potential information that's in that square. So even a square 3 by 3 contains almost an infinite amount of potential information, okay, that could eventually go into the creation of existence, be a component of it. But when you got a big square, okay, we're dealing with huge complexities of potentiality, okay? So they started to give him page by page by page of huge thousands of squares, okay, of alphanumeric code. And till he had a book of them. And then they'd say, okay, now we're going to condense that down, just like in the first 3 seconds from the Big Bang. Okay, you hear physicists describe what's going on in the same way that these angels say, okay, now on your third page, on this column and this line and that row,
Right.
choose that letter, that square, and put it right over here. And they condensed those huge, infinite, hundreds of thousands of squares down into just, 1,000. And then they'd condense those down into just, until they got like 300. And they said, okay, now we can have something to work with. But those 380 some wouldn't have been in that order had they not been the hundreds and hundreds of thousands ones that got condensed. Just like you and me would not be you and me and everything else except for that huge chain of events. Okay? Right. That's how angels think. And Dee and Kelly could not even approach wrapping their meat brains around what was happening to them unless they rode along somehow on that story. And for Dee and Kelly, it was months and months and months of visions of angels going, okay, turn to the 5th page and on to this and this. They must have been so bored, but they were engaged. And for them to physically do it was reprogramming everything, their thought patterns, their nerves. And can you see how that they were tuned up?
Yeah.
They were tuned up, and then they turned this stuff into furniture. And toys and things that they actually, on one level, they actually got what was going on. Okay, so the book that you held up, my Enochian Vision Magic, there's other very good Enochian textbooks out there that use the the Ferrari that drives the Ferrari. Crowley drove the Ferrari farther than anybody else, as far as I'm concerned. But nobody seemed to pay attention to the wonders, the magic in the tuning up process. Okay, so after I don't know how many years we did Enochian magic at class, driving the Ferrari around, I thought, wow, what if we were tuned up kind of like Dee and Kelly were, except without the 3 years of preparation and wife swapping and things like that, you know. So I started to look into the holy table and the lamen and the things that were part of the process that they had to go through in creating this stuff, and then actually use the mechanism of the holy table and the lamen, and put it in sort of a mantra or a chanting. A little technology of its own that used a material that has never been used before, and in my opinion, used it in the same way that Dee and Kelly were forced to use it in those years just prior to the big communication. So we're going to do a little of that in the Vision in the Desert thing. I'm bringing all my toys. Okay.
It sounds so exciting.
Bringing all my toys. I've got a beautiful holy table, and because when you look at it, you can go, get it, get it, okay, and it's one thing kind of to look at graphs and stuff in a book, and it's another thing to say, no, that's it, and now you understand how that came about, you know. And now you know what it means when you do put on that lamen. Yeah. All right. And so I got paper lamens and
nice. Yes.
Everybody's got toys of their own.
Sure.
So that's that. And I'm looking forward to it. I've got a wonderful volunteer who's going to fly down from Portland and rent a van. And
big adventure. It sounds so exciting. I understand that at the time of recording, there's still one place left.
I think there's one place left. Yeah. And
right. I'll obviously leave links down in the description of the videos so that anyone who wants to see if that place is still available.
Just to go to Joshua Tree. Okay. I would just to go there, and it should be a wonderful spring evening. And we've got there's 2 local astronomers because it's one of the darkest places in North America.
Of course. And
we got a couple of astronomers. I'm going to do because Jupiter and the moon, and we're going to do an Enochian Jupiter thing, and we can all look at.
Oh, amazing. Okay. And it's 3 days, right?
3 days, March 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Fantastic. Well, that's really does sound very exciting indeed. You know, Lon, I had a whole list of questions, but you've covered every single aspect that I was hoping to ask you about this course. I'm so grateful. What a thoroughly engaging way of putting it, and I'm sure that many people are going to be fighting over that last place. Let's talk a little bit about your upcoming book. I mean, there's no segue here. It's just quite a different area of exploration. You've this Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot is probably the number one book that I recommended the most on my channel. I recommend a lot of books quite regularly, but I think this is number one. The introduction to the book is so amazing. You give everything that the reader needs to understand Aleister Crowley's deeply esoteric tarot, and to give the reader everything that the reader needs to understand Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot in just, 125 pages, I think is a work of genius. But it's not the only tarot book that you've written. You've written at least one more that I know of, the Tarot of Ceremonial Magick, which goes alongside your Tarot of Ceremonial Magick, which has been back in print, several editions. Is it still available, Lon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that I've got. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I'll leave links to all of that down below, of course. But now you're introducing us to the Tarot Architect. So what's the idea behind this new book? What's the new approach?
Well, just segueing from the Enochian, the way Dee and Kelly got themselves programmed. Okay, first of all, they had to get the Enochian universe into them. Okay, they had to implant it in them. Okay, tarot's the same way. The tarot architect, which incidentally provides the uncolored images of all 78 of the cards of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magick. So you can color your own, and big enough to where you could take it down to the copy shop, make your own. Okay, and there's coloring instructions and things like that. But most importantly, there's all the magical and Qabalistic significance that goes with each of the cards. So you could really create your own tarot deck. Within a year, you'd have your own hand-colored tarot deck, similar to the technique that the BOTA, the Builders of the Adytum, have a program similar to that. But my point is that the tarot, both the greater arcana and the lesser arcana, are constructed on pure Qabalistic numbers, classic Sefer Zaira, okay, 22 paths and 10 Sephiroth. And learning the tarot is learning the Qabalah, and learning the Qabalah is learning the tarot. Okay, and everything that goes along with them, including their astrological associations, how classic, like Solomonic spirits are assigned to the decans, and everything else that the decans over the years have represented. The angels of the Shemhamfer, they all have a tarot deck is like a little tightly block of flats, okay, and they've each room has all sorts of weird roommates that live in each together.
Yes,
in each room, and usually when you learn and study the tarot, you start with zero. The Fool, and going through to the universe at the very end, and then you learn one by one. You learn the suits and things like that. But that's not how existence came into existence. And here's the segue between, the Enochian and this. The Sefer Yetzirah is the tiny little pamphlet signed. Kabbalistic document. It may be the oldest work of Hebrew mysticism or Jewish mysticism. It really is old. And it's when I first read it, of course, it didn't mean anything. But I was learning the Hebrew alphabet and I was learning the tarot at the same time, which is a good magic thing to do. But I recognize that this is as good. This is the Western version of the Tao Te Ching. Okay, for years, I thought I was going to be a first-rate Eastern mystic, okay? But
interesting.
I figured that I learned that was going to be hard work, so I looked for something else, But anyway, the Tao Te Ching is just, transcendently awesome.
Yes.
You just feel like, oh, for a minute there, I was thinking like God.
Yes.
And, but the Sefer Yetzirah is so simple about the Hebrew alphabet, 22 letters. They're broken up into three kinds, And those three kinds just the mother letters, okay? The mother letters that create up and down and right and left and forward and backwards. Oh, three letters created space, and time, and not only, and you get it right down to the lowest thing it represents is water, the primitive elements of water, fire, and air. So that's so cool. And they just created center, above and below, east and west, north and there's 7 double letters because they create duality. There's an up and a down. So can you see how the 7 double letters and that creates this expanding cube, just like the Big Bang going like this, and it's easier to talk about an expanding sphere than it is, or an expanding cube that represents an expanding sphere. And the edges of that cube are the 12 simple letters. And there is your entire Hebrew alphabet. So why not, as you're creating your own tarot deck, why not create them, immerse yourself in the dynamics of each of those cards as they unfolded in the Sefer Yetzirah. So start your whole thing with the 2 zeros, the 0 at the beginning and the 0 at the end for the universe card. Do those first. Okay, those are the hoops you jump through at the beginning of existence and the hoop you jump back out of at the end of a manifested universe. Start there and then go Aleph, Mem, Shin. Okay, so in other words, you create your own tarot deck, immerse yourself, because it takes a while, it takes a day just to color one card and to get in tune with the color frequency that you're doing and all. Your tarot pretty damn well if you just take a day and do one card at a time. Okay,
right.
In other words, you've implanted it in yourself. And if you implant it with yourself in the same order as the universe was created, you're building your tarot. You're a tarot architect, and you're building it within yourself.
That's beautiful.
Because that's the only place you can build it. Okay. So that's the premise of the book, and it has all the other collateral information. It's fun too. Okay, I'll put it that way. I try to make it fun too, with sidebar exercises. But probably the most valuable thing is at every step, there's a meditation, process where you actually use a tarot deck and identify with things. That universe the universe card at the very end that you jump back out of a manifested universe, I have you just put it in your pocket so that you identify with the center of everything, the Saturn point in the middle of that cube.
Yes.
So that as you walk around during the day, you're identifying with the source of all.
What a powerful process. Yes, my goodness.
Got a great introduction by Mary Greer.
Lovely. I I'm hearing some parallels with your Son of Chicken Qabalah. So similar ideas, just a different way of approaching that specifically through the lens of tarot. I think that tarot as a means of initiation is makes such good sense. I love your comparison of Sefer Yetzirah with the Tao Te Ching. It makes perfect sense. It's absolutely spot on. Yeah, that's really, really nice.
Rabbi Ben Clifford had a great influence on this.
Sure. Clever guy, that rabbi. Yes.
Wherever he is.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. So that's coming out in May, is that right?
Yeah, May 5th. And the way those things go, we might actually see it out in April sometime.
Okay. Pre-orders are already available on Amazon. I'll leave links to that as well, of course.
Actually, it's Wiser. Wiser is the tarot.
Wiser Publishing. Okay, nice. Okay, well, once again, I think we've covered all my questions on the Tarot Architect. So I've got a couple of questions for you, really, because I've got you. I wanted to ask you a couple direct questions. So let me see what I wrote down. Your own magical history is well documented via a number of podcast episodes that I've had the highly entertaining privilege to listen to. I'm sure many Foolish Fish viewers have probably heard similar ones. And also via a lot of your own writing. Which of your own books would you recommend to a viewer who might be interested in reading about the experiences of a practicing ceremonial magician?
A very early one, My Life with Spirits, and Low Magic.
Oh, I've got both of them. I've got both of them to hand. That's nice. Okay, good.
Those would be the ones that pure anecdotal. What I did. This is what I was feeling. This is how I did this. How I fell into this, and they're full of big mistakes that I've made. Things that blow up in my face, and yes, so I would recommend those two. Another one, which is sort of a sleeper, and a rather small publisher, New Falcon. Is my Ask Baba Lon. And that was about 30 years of letters that, well, maybe not when I wrote it. It was, but letters and emails people have sent me and my answers back. And so you could, I recommend that one because if you have that similar question, you can just go to the title of that little section and see what I had to say about that. And I like that because I'm never more candid than and relaxed when I'm just talking to one individual after another, instead of thinking this is going to be enshrined in.
Yes, of course.
And so Ask Babylon would be another one.
That's a great recommendation. Okay, thank you.
I know how much I enjoyed Magic Without Tears, Crowley's Magic Without Tears, which unfortunately is out of print and very hard to find. But that was Crowley's kind of later in life, writing charming, rude, candid letters to mostly, I think, women students. And he's never more charming, and he's got almost his entire life behind him. And so you get more Crowley, truthful, personal information out of him than you would if he was answering those questions in 1920
For sure. Establishing himself and being very cocky. Yes. Okay. Any chance we might get a reprint of Homemade Magic?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a chance. I guess it didn't sell good enough for Llewellyn to want to put it out. I guess you really got to sell a lot to have it.
Yes.
So the people that did the newest editions of the cards.
Oh yes.
Magical Omaha. About 3 years ago, I guess, they said, "What else do you have?" And I said, "Oh, why? Well, we should." But it's for one reason or another, it seems like they haven't wanted to get into the book business, and so now I'm talking with another publisher that found it hard to believe that it was out of print because it's one of the most popular books. Okay,
I can well believe it. It was so helpful for my own journey. I'm deeply appreciative, and I'm so sad that I can't recommend it to people because it's out of print at the moment.
Well, I tell you, if we ink the deal that I'm literally discussing yesterday.
Wow.
I will be happy to tell you first off.
Fingers crossed. Okay.
Yeah, it's even got, my whole talking about magical tools and stuff. Mm-hmm. I talk about the creation of my pantacle, which my pantacle now is on display, at the Buckland Museum of Magic and Witchcraft in a beautiful exhibition where you can see both sides because I got the sigil of Deometh on, and it's more famous than I am. Okay, and the construction of it is in that Homemade Magic too.
That's right. Yeah, it completely encouraged me to make my own magical tools, magical weapons, and it's relatable and easy to follow, and I really hope that it does work. Maybe you could give us a recommendation of your books for the novice Magus who is trying to get their feet wet, trying to do something for the first time, actively do something rather than understand the philosophy, and possibly in the process of understanding the philosophy, if that makes sense.
Well, I've got a little book called The Book of Ordinary Oracles. Now, even though the book is focused on the oracular and divination theory and practice, it is also very comforting, I guess, as far as just getting right down and doing stuff. Okay, the very first book that I wrote for Weiser was originally called The Magic of Thelema, but it's called The Magic of Aleister Crowley, and
I think I've got that one to hand as well, right there.
Yeah. And in the same way that understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot starts off by saying, hey, before you get into understanding Aleister Crowley, here's the little bits of things that you should understand before that, okay? Mm-hmm. And it sort of eases your, I get that, I tried to do a similar thing with the Magic of Aleister Crowley, in so much as, look, Crowley's really hard enough, without making it extra hard here's why the pentagram ritual is important, okay? And so I give those little introductions to why the hell am I even doing a pentagram ritual, okay? And so I set that up to say, to help you understand why the Golden Dawn thought it was so important, and then what Crowley tweaked that with his Star Ruby and Liber 5. And here's why then they went from the hexagram or the pentagram to the hexagram. And so that would even if they don't, if they just feel like, well, I hate Crowley, I think he was icky, or something. We'll just read right up to each of those sections to where I leave off and talking about what Crowley did to tweak that. Just see what it was he was tweaking. Okay.
Makes sense.
I recommend that one. But a book not of my own, Donald Michael Craig's Modern Magic. Oh, yeah. It's just a wonderful book. And even more so, it was written by a guy who is sane. Which is so rare, okay? And I really miss him. We used to every year we would drive up from Los Angeles to San Francisco and then San Jose for PantheaCon, and it was just every year I look forward to that drive because he's so funny. But anyway,
sorely missed. Yes. Any books? Possibly outside of the books of Aleister Crowley, that have given you some light bulb moments in your own magical career?
Yeah, lots of them. Just generically, if I was talking to somebody on a bus or next to me on the airplane who had suffered a complete case of amnesia, and wanted to start somewhere, I would say Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi.
Oh, great recommendation. Yes.
And if no other book any more esoteric for Eastern or Western mysticism, you would be blessed by reading that book. And it was one of the very first books that influenced our lives, both of our lives. And it's just absolutely wonderful. So I would recommend that. As far as an introduction to practical Qabalah, and how it might connect with tarot, the works of Paul Foster Case are wonderful and influenced me a lot. I took the BOT lessons for a while, and I didn't even. Not everybody likes Crowley, and I guess Case didn't like Crowley and really didn't like Enochian, but which is so sad because so much of Enochian, especially the Lesser Arcana, is just pure Enochian. Even my aces. Well, look, see,
right there,
Enochian square right there, because they're self-referential. But I really like Paul Foster Case. So in the last 3 or 4 years, Constance is discovering the absolute treasures in the Course in Miracles. And, for years, I stayed away from it because I thought it was kind of a Christian-y kind of thing.
Sure.
Well, it is in so much.
Yes. Nevertheless.
Yeah, nevertheless, it is so magical. So we do a Monday night class here on the Thoth Tarot and things like that. And then she'll read, she says it better than Crowley says it, or whoever it was that wrote the thing. And it was channeled material, so it's difficult. I guess it's too difficult for me to get into because I like periods and commas.
Yes, I've had the same problem with it. Yes,
But it's very very insightful. It's brilliant.
I seem to remember there's a series of books to introduce it, to give some help in reading it. I think I've seen something like that over the past few years.
There should be.
Right,
Okay.
right.
It's good stuff. Yeah, so that's another one. But there's great, a modern. I really like Marco Visconti's stuff, and it's just the world is full of pretty wise, knowledgeable magicians. So.
Lovely, very, very nice. Thank you for those recommendations, Lon. That's very helpful. Final question. I've kept you for a very long time, and you've been very, very gracious. Any do's and don'ts for young novices just getting started? Any pitfalls, common pitfalls that you see many people getting started falling into, and potentially anything that you would recommend? If you don't do anything else, make sure you do this.
Well, don't take yourself too seriously. You can take magic seriously without taking yourself seriously.
Stay foolish.
And you can take yourself seriously without taking the magic seriously. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you make a fool of yourself for others. I found, and it may just be a naive attitude, but I take not taking things seriously.
Yeah.
And if I had any advice to give to somebody, it would at least start with that. That there's nothing to be found in the practice of magic or any magical technique or the embrace of any magical philosophy. There's nothing more important than just being personally happy.
Wise words. Very wise words. Thank you, Lon. Thank you so much for the time that you've spent with me today. Thank you so much for your, I was going to say contributions, but it's much more than contributions. It's for what you've done for the occult community. We all owe you an enormous debt of gratitude. It's a deep honor to be able to talk to you today. And my goodness, I hope that the course in Joshua Tree goes really well. And wishing you fantastic success with the upcoming Tarot Architect book in May. Lon Milo Duquette, the man, the legend. Thank you. Lovely to have you.